survive a review, you've got to become a review. Today on Outside the Box Reviews, we're taking a look at the NECA Rambo First Blood Part 2 John J. Rambo figure. And NECA has made some kind of odd choices in the naming and everything else with this line, because I want to say this is Wave 3, but this is just the third figure released, all individual releases, and it's the second figure dubbed John J. Rambo, the first being from First Blood, and really the only identifying in the packaging alone, not looking at the figure itself, is that there's a First Blood Part 2 poster on this package as opposed to the original movie's poster. But as always, NECA has given us another figure loaded down with accessories and articulation, and I was excited to check this guy out right from seeing the packaging, simply because I feel like this is another attempt by NECA to hit Hot Toys level options with a figure. So let's strap on our jungle survival gear, jump out of the airplane to go take a look at this figure. Rambo, of course, comes with some great accessories. Here we have his rocket launcher. We have some great wood detail down here at the handles, even with some silver rivets. We have kind of like a brass plate here behind the trigger. Nice gray for the main body of it. It has some sights up here on the top that are just kind of like sticks, and I would be very careful with these. I could see these being prone to breaking. This back section, they bring in some brown paint, making it look a little more rusty or worn or something like that. You have the hole for kind of the backflow of exhaust coming off the missile, which is great. You can imagine a lot of people will probably be throwing some cotton or something back here to simulate that. And then we have the head of the rocket itself. Now this is decent. I wish it could be a little better. In the movie, they very clearly show some Russian writing on it, and I kind of wish that would be on here, but that might be a very tiny detail to include. But really what I'd like most is if you could actually unpeg this and remove it, and that way you could have it look like he's already fired the rocket instead of just having it always in pre-fired mode. And I'm not going to try to get back into his hand, but if you saw at the beginning of the video, I did have him holding it, and it's kind of awkward. You almost have to dislocate his wrists to get him to hold it like that. So it's not the easiest accessory for him to have, but it's nice looking if nothing else. He also has his rifle here, which is beautifully done. I love the sculpt on this, and I love that NECA gave us some nice silver dry brushing across it. That was one of my problems with the Terminator line, is they gave us a lot of flat black guns, and this thing definitely looks worn and beaten. A little slide here on the side, and you got the trigger back here, another handhold up here. This point is where it mounted to the helicopter that he pulled it off of. Trigger guard right there as well. My only thing with this I'm a little not sure about is the strap. I don't think this was there in the movie. I think in the movie he just pulled it off the helicopter, so it wouldn't actually have this, but who knows, maybe they added it in one of the later scenes and I missed it. I'm just not entirely sure if this is movie accurate, but hey, you could throw it over your character's shoulder and have him run around with it if nothing else. Rambo also comes with a very, very tiny little grenade here. Some nice detailing on it. It's pretty well done. Mostly green, but it has a little silver section, some darker greens mixed in. I'm actually really surprised how well this is painted. And then of course we have the infamous Rambo knife, looking brutal as ever. Nice silver paint on here, the serrated edge up here, nice curve at the end. Black handle, very cool looking. And it's not just a re-release of the original one. Follow the movies, the knife gets progressively bigger throughout the series. So this is the First Blood version, and this is the First Blood Part 2 version. So a very massive upgrade there. If we ever get the Part 3 and heck the Part 4 version, it's gonna be like a machete. The knife also does have a holster here on Rambo's side, which looks great. Slide it right in there. There's a strap here that I know in the movie goes over top of the knife, and it may be unpeggable, so you could peg it in and out and put it over the top, but it's so tiny I'm afraid to mess with it, so I'm not gonna put too much stress on that. But there's some nice stitching going around the edges of the holster here. It's a soft rubber, so it will move and get out of the way when you're trying to pose the character. I think it's very well done. In a very Hot Toys-esque move, NECA provides Rambo with a great supply of hands. All different hands for all different possibilities. We of course have the dual trigger fingers, which is a necessity for any 80s action hero. They use that nice translucent plastic. They've definitely improved it. It's more like what we got in the Dutch than what we got in the first Rambo. There's some nice veins in there and some good shading as well. Even the fingernails are detailed out and the wrinkles inside the palm. We get two different gripping hands for the right side. This one's a little more open, definitely meant for holding on to the gun at one of the secondary supports, I believe. And then a more closed off one for the knife. For his left side, we get another kind of closed off one. I think this would work for the knife as well. And then a looser version that you could actually put the grenade into and he holds pretty well. I might end up using this version just so I don't lose such a tiny little accessory. However, I'm not in love with NECA's wrist pegs for this character. They seem so small and I'm really worried they're going to break over time, but I just have to be very careful with this figure. As for the character himself, I think they gave us a decent likeness to Stallone. There's something slightly off about it. Even though Stallone was young in this film, it almost looks a little too young, a little too fresh-faced, but I think that actually could be fixed with a little extra shading. The detail on it is really nice. We got the headbands coming out under the hair. It's a nice kind of muted red, and this part's rubberized. He has this perfectly feathered 80s mullet going on. Some great paint shading in there as well. Even the eyes, eyebrows, and lips are really well painted on there. Coming down around the neck, he has the little Buddha necklace from Co. Some great scar detail on his chest. I checked this out with the movie, and they did a pretty good job of capturing these. I think in the movie they were a little more muted, a little darker in color than the rest of his body, but to give the impression of some scarification, it's not a bad way to go. And the muscles, they knocked out amazingly. It looks great. It's very well detailed. One thing I would have liked to see on the head sculpt would be the burn mark scar coming down the side of his face, because that had happened by this point in the movie by the time he takes his shirt off, so it would have been nice to include that on the figure as well. Got his arms looking totally ripped and ready to kick some butt. Even on the back, we've got some more great detail and scars going on. Paint they used for this, they had the translucent flesh tone plastic, but they added some nice shading to it to really bring out all the details on the figure. The pants are well done sculpt wise, but the paint is a little boring. He has his black belts with a black clasp on his black pants, but it's all detailed in there. There's definitely a nice texture going on with the belt, more of a shiny kind of flat texture for the actual buckle. Pants have some great wrinkles in them, bunch of pockets all around the pants, which is really nice attention to detail, even some little rips and holes in it, and then all billowing up over the top of his boots. However, by this stage in the movie, Rambo had gone through hell, and I kind of would have liked to see at least some kind of mud stains on his pants. I know it varies throughout the film, and I know there's no true definitive kind of way to present this, but I really would have liked some dirtier pants for this character and not quite so clean looking. And we come down to his jungle boots, which look great, some nice laces on there, but they are once again just plain old black, no silver rivets or anything like that. Not that it isn't movie accurate, but it just feels like it needs a little extra color to really heighten what's going on here. For articulation, they actually have a really good range here. The head is on a ball joint and has very free motion. The back of his hair is actually rubberized, so no real hindrance there at all. We have the standard pin and socket shoulders. They don't go out particularly far, maybe about 45 degrees to the body, but of course you can go all the way around. You can bend almost 90 degrees at the elbow, blocked a little bit by his big biceps. And then we can also swivel at the elbow. He has that ball joint because of the peg at the wrist. He has a ball joint at the mid-torso, so he has an ab crunch. You can go side to side as well as turn. Legs are on a pin socket joint. They go forward and back and out to the side. The upper section of his pants are that diaper where it's soft rubber, so you get a lot of great articulation there without hindering anything. You can also rotate the upper leg. It's kind of odd that there's a flesh-toned pin going through his leg joint up there, so if you move it out too far, it does look a little goofy. Looks like you're seeing something else through a gap in his pants there. He has a bend at the knee as well as a swivel, and one joint that I'm not quite sure about because I can't really get it to move on this leg, but this leg, it's overly loose. I believe we are supposed to have a swivel at the top of the boot where it connects to the pants, but this side is just overly loose and falls out at the drop of a hat. This side feels like it doesn't really want to move, so I'm not sure if it's an intentional joint or just a way they connected the figure together, but theoretically I guess you could swivel there. You also have a ball joint at the ankle itself, so you could move side to side there as well as pivot and then move forward and back. A really great range here actually. You can get a lot of dynamic poses out of his feet. And here we get First Blood Part 2 Rambo alongside his First Blood counterparts, and you can definitely see some progression with NECA's whole Rambo line here. I honestly think that the first release on the left a little to be desired. They cleaned it up quite a bit for the updated version on the right, and I think they've definitely made some improvements bringing it forward into this new version. And then for the heck of it, let's have them alongside some other NECA 80s action movie icons. If I had that god-awful Die Hard figure, I could actually make a Planet Hollywood setup with this. So now it's time to figure out if this figure is expendable. And you know what? I don't think it is. I think it's actually a pretty good figure. I don't get quite as excited over this Rambo line from NECA as I do with a lot of their other lines, but it's definitely a good representation of Stallone from the movie. movie. He came with some great accessories, and the interchangeable hands are pretty neat. I'm still worried about that peg system in the wrists. I'm very concerned that they're going to break if you switch them out too much. So I think it'd be best to pick a way you want to display him and then kind of just run with it. But overall, NECA has done a great job. I'm going to recommend this figure. We already have a version with a bow and arrow on its way, and quite honestly, I'm much more excited for that version. And I'm kind of hoping they'll give us a version where he has the tank top on from earlier in the movie. That would require a completely new torso sculpt because you have to take away the necklace and of course redo the upper torso, but I think it'd be worth it. I'm hoping maybe enough time will pass between this release and the version with the bow and arrow that they might add that scar to his face as well, because I feel like that is sorely lacking. But overall, a good figure. Make sure you check me out on Instagram, username Outside the Box Reviews. Also check me out on Facebook, link below. And until next time, it's been another Outside the Box Reviews. Stay tuned for more to come.